With the Super Bowl around the corner, we've decided movie fans need a way to get ready for the big game. So we're offering up some sure winners, fun movies about pro football that will score big with your home team, whether they're friends or family. It's all part of a well-balanced media diet, and this is Mayor Mike's Media Diet. Hi everybody, I'm Mike Bawden, and yes, I am actually the mayor of a small town. As funny as it seems to be to some people here at the Burnettwork, I try to remind folks that I am also a writer and producer, as well as a mass media junkie. But they like using that Mayor Mike persona, so whatever. Unless I'm doing an open mic on political subjects, there's no politics in any of these shows that I'm doing. Let's just make sure that's clear. This show and the others I'll be hosting are all focused on finding new media gems for fellow Imagination Connoisseurs, whether that's movies, television, artwork, comics, books, music, any of that stuff. We're here to enjoy it together. I've written plays and publications. I've produced documentaries, over 200 television commercials. While guys like Burnett have experience in Hollywood, mine is a much more commercial variety, working primarily in advertising and public relations. So I have a uniquely market-based outlook on the world of genre entertainment, and I'm much more interested in media literacy. What you're watching right now is what we call the Media Diet. Each week I'll be providing you with our daily recommended viewing. This is a variety of recommendations for TV shows, movies, and other media that won't take more than 2 hours out of your regular day. All the recommendations will be interrelated somehow and connect back to a theme. And then in the description area below, I'll provide links to more information so that you can have a rich media experience if that's what you're looking for. Hey, it's okay to turn off your brain and just watch TV. I'm not against that. But if you're like me, sometimes you'll like to know a little bit more about what you're watching. As I mentioned, this show will air once a week, usually on Mondays around noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. East, and 8 p.m. GMT. On Thursdays, I'll be back with a show focusing on Westerns, and on Friday, we'll be taking a look at some fan films that you can watch for free on YouTube. I hope you'll check those shows out too. Really, it'd be nice if people watched this. And just like all the other shows on the Burnettwork, if you want to send me a message, you're more than welcome to do that. Just go to our website, click on the Contact Us link, type out an email, and send it. I get all the emails. All the emails. Hundreds of emails. So many emails. Also, because these shows are pre-recorded, we still take super chats and tips, but those can't be answered during the show. If you send a super chat or you send a tip, I will produce a companion video and we'll make sure that we have that up and online so that you can watch it before the next show. Sure, it's not as fun as asking Rob or Elizabeth or Dieter or even Az questions during the show, but they're a lot more fun than I am anyway. So what's our criteria for this week? Let me explain how that works. This week I found 7 movies about professional football that range from tense dramas to heartwarming comedies, and all of these movies can be found on Amazon or Apple Plus. Some can even be found for free with commercials on YouTube. So before we get into the list, I'd like to ask you to do me a favor, would you? Would you please click on the thumbs up icon? That way, this video will get seen by more people when they log into YouTube. And if you haven't done it already, please be sure to click on the subscribe button down right below the screen. Next to that's a little bell. If you click on that, you can actually set things so that you'll get alerts every time we post new content to the Burnettwork YouTube channel. We'd appreciate that too. Now let's get on with this week's recommendations for your media diet. The Blind Side. Based on a true story, Leanne Toohey and her husband Sean and their kids take in a homeless African-American teen, Michael Orr. Big Mike has had little formal education and few skills to help him learn, but with the Tooheys' help, Michael soon has every opportunity to succeed. They not only provide him with a loving home, but hire a tutor to help him improve his grades. And when Michael expresses an interest in football, Leanne goes all out to help him, including giving the coach a few ideas on how best to use Michael's skills. The success on and off the field, Big Mike is eventually selected as a first-round pick by the Baltimore Ravens in the 2009 NFL Draft. The movie was written and directed by Johnny Lee Hancock, based on a book by Michael Lewis. It stars Sandra Bullock, country music artist Tim McGraw, and Quentin Aaron as Michael Orr. Bullock took a pay cut to make the film and agreed to a percentage of the film's profits, which turned out to be considerable. During the first couple of weeks of shooting, she thought her acting was so bad she should drop out. She didn't quit, however, and ended up winning the Best Leading Actress Oscar for her performance. When Quentin Aaron auditioned for the film, he was working as a security guard between acting gigs. After his audition, he left a card with his contact information and offered to work as a security guard on the set, in case he wasn't selected to play Michael Orr. I guess it's always good to have a plan B. And about that Michael Orr, in Super Bowl 47 in 2013, the San Francisco 49ers lost to the Baltimore Ravens, and Michael earned a Super Bowl ring. The North Dallas 40. This film is a biting satire of pro football and is loosely based on the Dallas Cowboys team of the late 60s and early 70s. North Dallas 40 was originally a novel by former Cowboys receiver Peter Gent, who played in the mid to late 60s. The story was then adapted for screen by Frank Yablans. Ted Kotcheff directed a cast that included Nick Nolte, Charles Durning, and country music star Mac Davis. What is it with all these country music stars in these football movies? Interestingly enough, Davis's role was actually offered to NFL quarterback Dandy Don Meredith, the very man on whom the character was based. Most of the players in North Dallas 40 are depicted as beer-soaked, drug-addled, and girl-crazy. They are convinced by management to take painkillers to keep playing despite permanently disabling injuries. And as long as it keeps the party going and the alcohol flowing, they seem more than happy to comply. It's relatively easy to see why the Cowboys did not like that depiction, and they did their best to torpedo the project and keep the production crews out of Dallas. Leatherheads. Our next recommendation takes us back to the early days of pro football. We meet Dodge Conley, played by George Clooney, who's the captain of a 1920s football team struggling to win in a league struggling to survive. Dodge wants to give this sagging sport a boost and capture the country's attention, so he recruits Carter the Bullet Rutherford, a star running back from Princeton. Carter, played by John Krasinski, is not only a war hero, he's also fast, handsome, and guaranteed to pack the stands with fans. Newswoman Lexi Littleton, played by Renee Zellweger, goes digging for dirt on Carter, while both Dodge and Carter try to score with her off the field. I don't write all of them, but I wrote that one. Sorry. Clooney stars in and directs this picture based on a story and script by Duncan Brantley and Rick Riley. The plot is loosely based on George Papa Bear Hallis's signing of University of Illinois football star Harold Red Grange to play for the 25 Chicago Bears. Hallis signed Grange the day after he played his final game at Illinois. The Longest Yard. Directed by Robert Aldrich with a script by Tracy Keenan Wynn. The Longest Yard is a prison sports comedy that follows a former NFL player played by Burt Reynolds. Reynolds recruits a group of prisoners to play football against their guards. But when the warden, played by Eddie Albert, asks him to throw the game in return for an early release, Reynolds' character is torn between his personal interests and his concern for his fellow inmates. The film also features many real-life football players from the late 60s and early 70s, including Green Bay Packers legend Ray Nitschke. The Longest Yard was one of the first football films to be made in which a wide receiver is shown standing at the line of scrimmage. From the early inception of American football until the late 60s, the wide receiver, commonly referred to then as a flanker, would put his hand on the ground in a stance similar to that of other offensive linemen. After the cast and crew of The Longest Yard departed from Georgia State Prison, the inmates played Georgia State troopers, using the equipment left behind by the film crew. The game quickly got out of hand, with inmates running up the score on out-of-shape troopers. It ended at the half, with the inmates up 66-0. It also ended prison football in Georgia. Brian's Song. This production was originally shown as a TV movie of the week, but had such impact that it lived on through both limited theatrical releases and home video. Brian's song is the story of Gale Sayers, who joins the Chicago Bears and is befriended by fellow running back Brian Piccolo. Despite the fact that Sayers is black and Piccolo is white, they become roommates on the road and very close friends, especially when Sayers is injured and Piccolo helps his recovery. The movie was directed by Buzz Kulik, and the script was written from the book authored by William Blinn and Gale Sayers. You'll recognize James Caan as Brian Piccolo and Billy D. Williams as Gale Sayers. Scenes of the Chicago Bears training camp were actually shot at the camp's location in Indiana. One of the more memorable things about this film is the title theme. In fact, the music went on to be a top 10 hit on popular radio stations of the day, which was really unusual since this theme was only played one time on a movie of the week. I've included a link to that music in the description below. You may recognize the music once you hear it. Any Given Sunday was released in 1999 and directed by Oliver Stone. The film stars Al Pacino, Dennis Quaid, Cameron Diaz, and Jamie Foxx, among others. Sean Puffy Combs was initially cast as Willie Beeman, but scheduling conflicts supposedly caused him to drop out, leaving the role to Jamie Foxx. But other sources cite that when the football experts began working with Combs on his quarterback drills, they realized they knew he could never be convincing as a pro quarterback, so they brought in Foxx, who was a natural athlete and quickly learned the position. Oliver Stone had a number of problems with the NFL in this film. He couldn't secure the National Football League's permission to use real NFL team logos in stadiums. In fact, when the NFL refused to assist in any way, the producers had to create a fictional football league that was a combination of the World Football League and the U.S. Football League, both who challenged the NFL in the 70s and the 80s, but didn't last long. Nobody messes with the NFL. The screenplay makes this explicit in a scene where the mayor of Miami tells Cameron Diaz's character that one of the reasons the city cannot afford to build a new stadium for their team, the Sharks, is the local prominence of the Miami Dolphins. But even so, 49ers wide receiver Terrell Owens can be seen playing and scoring 2 touchdowns for the Miami Sharks. And while the name on the back of his shirt says Owens, he wears number 82 and not 81, as he did in real life. Heaven Can Wait. Warren Beatty plays a Los Angeles Rams quarterback accidentally taken away from his body by an over-anxious angel before he was meant to die. He then returns to life in the body of a recently murdered millionaire in this delightful reimagining of Here Comes Mr. Jordan, a comedy film from the 1940s. The film is co-directed by Warren Beatty and Buck Henry and stars Beatty, James Mason, Julie Christie, Charles Grodin, Diane Cannon, and Jack Warden. In fact, the legend is that Beatty tried to get Cary Grant to play the role that James Mason eventually took on. Beatty asked his co-star Diane Cannon, who just so happened to be Cary Grant's ex-wife, to see if she could convince Grant to take the role. But Grant had already retired and been out of the business for about a dozen years and refused. Heaven Can Wait was nominated for 9 Academy Awards in 1978, including Best Director, but only won 1 Oscar that year, which was for Best Art Direction and Set Decoration. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? A little, maybe? So that'll wrap things up for me here today. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us on the first episode ever of the Media Diet. And if you like this show and you like what you found on the Burnettwork, I sure hope you'll consider becoming part of the Post-Geek Singularity community on YouTube. All you have to do is click on that join button. That one, it's just right down there. You do that, you'll get all kinds of information on how you can join for as little as $1 a month. We appreciate any support that you can give us. Just remember that there's a lot of other movies, TV shows, and other media out there in the world. Sometimes all you need is someone who cares about it as much as you do to find it and make sure it's a story worth listening to. Because that's what Imagination Connoisseurs do for each other. Stay safe, be well, and have a better day.